Most individuals assume that people with wealth operate under the same financial principles as everyone else, just scaled up with larger amounts, but that assumption is misleading. The truth is, money alone does not define financial success. What truly shapes outcomes are the invisible guidelines that determine how money is handled after it enters your life. Wealthy individuals are not always superior earners. Instead, they tend to excel at preserving, safeguarding, delaying, and strategically placing their money. They recognize when funds should remain untouched, when they should be transformed into assets, when patience is required, and when spending is unnecessary, despite the temptation to appear successful. This is why two individuals can earn nearly identical incomes over many years and still end up living completely different realities. But this one becomes increasingly stable, composed, and resilient, while the other remains active, outwardly successful, yet financially vulnerable beneath the surface. On the outside, both may seem responsible and disciplined, but internally, their financial structures are moving in opposite directions. In this discussion, as emphasized by TOOD, LYTLE, we explore 5 silent financial principles that wealthy individuals tend to follow. Without drawing attention to them, these principles are not flashy, nor do they generate instant recognition, but over time they create a clear divide between genuine financial strength and mere appearances of success. Many people only encounter these lessons after costly mistakes have already shaped their lives. This is not about admiration. It is about recognizing patterns. But when you begin to see these patterns clearly, you stop confusing activity with progress and start understanding what truly builds a solid financial future. Before examining the first principle, it is important to address a widespread misconception. Many believe that wealth is the result of one defining moment, a major promotion, a brilliant investment, a successful business idea, or a stroke of luck that changes everything overnight. While this narrative is appealing, it rarely reflects reality. True financial stability is usually built through a quiet system of repeated decisions. It comes from consistent habits that determine whether money remains in your life long enough to evolve, from simple income into security, then into capital, and eventually into leverage. If those decisions are weak, even a strong income can dissolve into a more expensive version of the same instability. On the other hand, if those decisions are strong, even a modest income can gradually transform into something reliable and enduring. This is where many people struggle. They are taught how to earn, how to spend, how to upgrade their lifestyle, and how to signal progress to others, but they are rarely taught how to make money difficult to remove from their future. They are not shown how to preserve surplus long enough for it to become true strength. This explains why two people in the same environment, earning the same amount, can move in entirely different directions. One converts surplus into flexibility, ownership, and opportunity, while the other turns surplus into obligations, higher expenses, and temporary comfort. From the outside, both lives may appear similar, but under pressure, one becomes stronger while the other begins to break. These principles matter because they explain that divergence. They clarify why some individuals grow quietly stronger year after year, while others remain constantly active, yet permanently close to financial strain. These rules are not designed to make you look wealthy overnight. They are designed to make you resilient, and that resilience is where real wealth begins. This also explains why financial reality often appears confusing. People notice income but overlook what is retained. They see purchases but fail to recognize the risks beneath them. They observe confidence but cannot tell whether it is supported by real financial backing or simply sustained by the next paycheck. And once you understand this, your perspective shifts. Instead of asking who earns more, you begin asking whose money is governed by stronger principles. And over time, structure consistently outperforms intention, discipline outperforms motivation, and systems outperform raw effort. The first principle is straightforward, yet widely ignored. Retain more than you reveal. In simpler terms, Do not allow your visible lifestyle to expand faster than your hidden financial strength. Many people feel pressure to demonstrate progress as soon as their income increases. A raise often leads to immediate lifestyle upgrades, better housing, increased spending, or replacing items that still function simply to reflect a new identity. This behavior feels normal because modern society rewards visible success and often overlooks quiet discipline. If your earnings increase but your lifestyle remains unchanged, people may question it, and sometimes you question it yourself. There is a subtle pressure to translate income into appearance, as if progress only counts when it is seen. Wealthy individuals tend to think differently. Instead of asking how they can display progress, they focus on what they can preserve, protect, and allow to grow quietly. They understand that money used for appearance disappears quickly, while money that is retained creates options. It becomes security, flexibility, and the ability to withstand difficult periods without immediate panic. This is why restraint is one of the most overlooked indicators of financial strength. It is not about avoiding enjoyment, but about understanding that visible comfort is not the same as real progress. Increasing your monthly expenses can make life appear improved while actually weakening your financial foundation. A more expensive version of the same lifestyle can silently destroy the surplus that could have secured your future. Real wealth often remains invisible for longer than most people expect. It looks like income that was not spent, upgrades that were intentionally delayed, and individuals who choose not to expand their lifestyle as quickly as they could. It is the discipline of allowing money to remain untouched so it can grow into something meaningful. Many people unknowingly spend to maintain an image rather than build stability. They seek validation, using money to confirm that their efforts are paying off, but money that is constantly used to create appearances cannot remain long enough to become protection. In a world driven by visibility through social media credit systems and status signaling, choosing to retain more than you display becomes a deliberate act of independence. It requires accepting that some of your strongest financial decisions will go unnoticed by others. The more aggressively you showcase success, the less quietly you build power. Wealthy individuals understand that money's primary role is not to impress others, but to strengthen your internal financial structure. The second principle is equally important. Invest in assets, not temporary comfort. This concept explains much of the difference in financial outcomes between individuals. Most people do not lose ground through one major mistake, but through repeated small decisions that feel justified emotionally, yet weaken them financially. Consider how financial stress typically unfolds. After a demanding week, you feel drained, underappreciated, and in need of relief. When money arrives in that state, your priority is rarely long-term growth. Instead, you seek immediate comfort, something that eases the pressure of the moment. This often leads to spending on convenience, entertainment, or small indulgences that feel deserved. There is nothing inherently wrong with this, which is why it becomes so easy to repeat. People are not careless, they are simply trying to cope. However, there is a significant difference between spending for relief and investing in assets. Relief provides a temporary emotional benefit and then disappears. Assets, on the other hand, remain. They provide stability, generate returns, and create opportunities over time. Wealthy individuals tend to focus on what endures. They allow a portion of their money to remain unused for immediate satisfaction. They do not expect every dollar to improve their current mood. Instead, they let some of it exist in forms that may feel unexciting now, but will strengthen their future. This distinction is subtle but powerful. One mindset asks, what will bring comfort today, while the other asks, what will create value over time? Repeated often enough, these choices shape entirely different financial realities. When money consistently flows toward temporary relief, it never has the opportunity to evolve into something greater. Over time, this prevents real progress, even if income increases. That is why many people find themselves earning more, yet feeling no more secure. Their income has grown, but their financial position has not strengthened because their money continues to be directed toward short-term comfort rather than long-term structure. In contrast, those who prioritize assets allow their resources to accumulate, stabilize, and eventually multiply. If T, his message connected with you in any way, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Most individuals tend to chase money as a way to calm internal stress and emotional tension, while someone who has already built wealth begins to approach money with a very different mindset, seeing it less as a quick relief tool and more as a resource that can be directed toward a broader and longer-term purpose. They understand that true financial independence is not simply the result of earning more, but rather the result of consistently resisting the urge to convert every extra dollar into short-lived comfort or temporary emotional relief. One of the core principles that reflects this mindset, very much aligned with the philosophy often associated with Warren Buffett, is the idea of protecting the downside before chasing gains. People who have built financial strength tend to grasp something that many others only realize after experiencing setbacks. Progress that can be easily undone is not genuine progress. If a single unexpected event, such as losing a job, facing a medical expense, dealing with a sudden increase in rent, or handling a major repair, can erase months of effort, then the financial structure in place is still too fragile to sustain meaningful growth. Movement may be happening, but it is happening on unstable ground that repeatedly gives way under pressure. That is not compounding. It is simply a cycle of rebuilding. Many people are conditioned to think primarily about the upside, focusing on questions like how to earn more, what opportunities look exciting, what investments might rise, or how to accelerate results. In contrast, those with wealth devote significant energy to shielding themselves from negative outcomes. They intentionally create buffers. Reduce unnecessary vulnerabilities and avoid setups where a single difficult month could trigger a cascade of poor decisions. This approach does not appear glamorous, which is precisely why it is often overlooked. For someone living close to financial limits, the concept of protecting against losses can feel dull when compared to stories of rapid gains, side hustle dreams, or high return possibilities. However, if a financial structure cannot withstand interruptions, then even promising opportunities can become risky. Panic undermines clear thinking, desperation erodes patience, and fear compresses long-term perspective into short-term reactions. This is why having an initial reserve of money is so critical, not because it creates the appearance of wealth, but because it provides resilience. It allows a person to respond to reality without immediately resorting to reactive debt. It fundamentally shifts the emotional environment in which decisions are made. Instead of approaching every choice with intense pressure and urgency, there is space to think more clearly. As fear decreases, patience improves. As patience improves, the quality of decisions rises. With better decisions, stronger opportunities become easier to recognize and maintain. In this way, safeguarding against losses is not in conflict with growth. It is often the very condition that makes growth achievable in the first place. It also explains why individuals with substantial wealth often appear more cautious than expected. Their behavior is not necessarily driven by fear, but by a desire to preserve the framework that allows them to remain active and effective over time. They recognize that a single avoidable setback can damage not only financial resources, but also confidence, judgment, and valuable time. Protecting against downside risk is, in essence, a way of maintaining forward momentum. The fundamental principle behind compounding is survival. Early success does not require dramatic wins. It requires avoiding repeated breakdowns. Guarding against loss is not a sign of weakness, but an expression of structural awareness, and many people only internalize this lesson after paying a high price for it. Often, individuals become focused on avoiding downside risks, Only after experiencing periods where everything felt unstable, where a missed payment, an unexpected repair, a health issue, or a few difficult weeks at work brought them dangerously close to collapse. These moments teach quickly, but the truly wealthy aim to understand this lesson before such impact occurs. Another important principle involves increasing the value produced by each hour of effort. Wealthy individuals are not solely focused on working harder. They are focused on ensuring that each unit of effort carries greater weight. Many people operate within a straightforward model where more hours lead to more income and fewer hours result in less income. Raises and overtime may provide temporary improvements, but the system still depends heavily on continuous labor availability and energy. This arrangement can sustain daily life, yet it also imposes a natural limit because time, physical capacity, and attention are finite resources. In contrast, those who build wealth ask how a single hour can generate more impact, how one effort can continue to produce value even after the initial work is completed. This is where leverage becomes relevant. Leverage can take different forms, including ownership, pricing power, specialized skills, repeatable systems, platforms, reputation, distribution channels, or invested capital. While the form may vary, the underlying principle remains consistent. The goal is to avoid having the entire future tied to a direct exchange of time for money. Instead, the aim is to increase the worth of each hour, make it more repeatable, or reduce its dependence on constant manual input. The intention is to construct a system where effort continues to matter even after the immediate task has been finished. This perspective transforms how work itself is evaluated. A person may be extremely busy yet remain stuck within a low-value structure, while another individual may appear less occupied, but is gradually enhancing the long-term output of every hour invested. One remains caught in constant activity, while the other is quietly altering the underlying equation. This difference explains how two people who both work hard can end up in entirely different positions over time. One continues to add effort within a system that does not significantly increase in value, while the other focuses on improving the system itself. One becomes increasingly occupied, while the other becomes increasingly difficult to replace. One is compensated mainly for physical or routine effort, while the other begins to earn based on judgment, expertise, ownership, systems, or scarcity. These changes often begin with simple, practical decisions, such as developing a skill that commands higher compensation, moving into roles where decision-making carries more weight than time spent, creating something that can be sold repeatedly, negotiating more effectively because personal value is clearer, or gradually building ownership even in small ways. While these steps may not appear dramatic at the start, they fundamentally alter the value of time in ways that additional hours of work cannot achieve. The difficult reality, however, is that many individuals do not realize they are progressing in the wrong direction. They take pride in their level of effort, but do not evaluate what that effort is structurally producing. If each additional hour still carries low value, minimal protectio, and no repeatability, then the future will remain constrained, regardless of how disciplined the present appears. Those who build wealth tend to follow a different approach. Before increasing effort, they focus on increasing the worth of that effort. And this single adjustment can completely reshape the trajectory of financial life. There is also a quieter principle that plays a significant role, one that is often the most challenging from a psychological standpoint: the ability to continue building without seeking constant visibility. Modern culture encourages people to display progress early, to demonstrate momentum quickly, to show confidence, and to present visible signs of improvement that others can recognize. In contrast, individuals who accumulate wealth often spend long periods building in relative silence, during which little appears to change externally. This quiet approach is not mysterious. It is practical. Those who build quietly do not require every action to be observed or every gain to be turned into a performance. They are more comfortable with repetition, delayed outcomes, and progress that is not immediately visible. They understand that many of the most impactful financial decisions feel underwhelming in the moment. Reducing debt lacks excitement. Saving consistently does not attract attention. Investing steadily in broad, productive assets can feel uneventful. Spending years developing a skill before it significantly increases income can seem slow. Resisting the urge to upgrade lifestyle with every increase in income does not create instant recognition. Yet, these are precisely the actions that produce substantial results over time. The challenge is that this kind of progress often feels emotionally costly in the beginning. A person may be making all the right choices, but those choices do not yet provide a strong or visible identity that all the right can easily acknowledge. You're evolving into a more resilient version of yourself, yet it isn't the kind of strength that earns quick applause or instant validation from the outside world. To anyone observing from a distance, it may even seem as though nothing significant is unfolding, but beneath the surface, something far more important is taking place. The internal framework is shifting, reorganizing itself into something stronger and more stable. Most people never stay long enough to see this transformation through. They walk away from powerful approaches simply because those approaches don't deliver a quick emotional payoff. When progress is quiet, when it feels uneventful and slow, it becomes easy to underestimate. It doesn't excite, it doesn't impress, and it certainly doesn't attract attention. So people abandon it. They chase something that feels better in the moment, something that signals success outwardly, or they demand visible proof long before the process has had time to produce results. Those who build lasting wealth tend to operate differently, and part of that difference lies in their acceptance of how real progress actually feels. They understand that meaningful growth is often dull in its early stages. It lacks drama. It doesn't look impressive. Before it becomes noticeable, it remains subtle. Before it becomes powerful, it feels repetitive. This understanding shapes their behavior in ways most people never fully adopt. One of the biggest reasons people lose financial ground is because they feel the need to experience success too soon. And if your sense of progress depends on others noticing it, you will constantly feel pressure to spend, to show, or to change direction before your efforts have matured. The desire for recognition becomes a trap. It pulls you away from the very discipline that could have created something real. Quiet builders, Leah, ran to resist that pull. They allow their progress to develop away from attention. They are comfortable with the idea that some of the most important periods of financial growth will appear completely ordinary to others. On the outside, nothing seems remarkable. On the inside, everything is changing. That contrast is not a flaw in the process. It is a defining feature of it. And perhaps that is why those who accumulate real wealth tend to follow these principles without making noise about them. They do not require every step to be seen. They are at ease with progress that happens privately. They recognize that the loudest moments in a financial journey are rarely the strongest. More often, the most powerful phase is the one where consistency is quietly building momentum before any recognition shows up. So why do so many people only come to understand these ideas later in life? It's not because the concepts are difficult, it's because the environment most people grow up and teaches something entirely different. Modern culture encourages people to look successful before they are actually secure. It pushes them to upgrade their lifestyle faster than they build stability. It conditions them to spend increases in income before they've learned how to protect or multiply that income. It promotes comparison instead of structure, appearance instead of durability. By the time many individuals finally recognize what truly matters, they are already carrying the weight of past decisions. Their expenses are too high, their safety margin is too thin. Their habits are built around temporary relief instead of long-term strength. Their time has been traded away within systems that never turned into leverage. When the realization finally arrives, it often comes after years of quiet damage, and that is what makes these principles seem rare or exclusive. Not because they are hidden, but because everything around the average person is constantly pulling their attention elsewhere toward urgency, toward comfort, toward spending, toward visibility. Very little in everyday financial culture emphasizes restraint. Almost nothing encourages you to keep more than you spend, to delay gratification, or to build something slowly without announcing it. Most people are not failing because they lack intelligence. They are simply responding to a system that rewards the appearance of progress faster than actual progress itself. They are taught to look upgraded long before they become stable. As a result, by the time they finally grasp these deeper rules, the cost of not knowing them has already been paid. It shows up in lost years, weak financial buffers, unstable structures, and cycles of starting over. That's why it can feel as though the wealthy are operating with some kind of secret knowledge. In truth, the knowledge isn't locked away. It's just drowned out by louder, more tempting messages. Spend now, show now, upgrade now, reward yourself now, upgrade now, reward yourself now. Keep up with everyone else now. When those messages are repeated over and over again, the quieter principles of building real wealth become almost invisible, even though they are right in front of you. The purpose of understanding this is not to regret that you didn't learn it sooner. Regret doesn't rebuild anything. What matters is reducing the delay from this point forward. Even if you feel late, learning these ideas today is still far less costly than learning them years from now after repeating the same avoidable mistakes. Timing plays a critical role. The sooner you shift your focus from performance to structure, the more time you reclaim. The sooner you stop using money to create an image and begin using it to create stability, the more your future begins to align in your favor. Most people are not waiting for a miracle. They are simply stuck in patterns that delay the right lessons. The real difference comes down to a few consistent behaviors. Those who build wealth tend to retain more than they display. They prioritize acquiring things that grow in value instead of things that provide temporary comfort. They focus on protecting what they have before taking risks to gain more. They work on increasing the value of their time rather than just increasing the amount of effort they put in. And perhaps most importantly, they continue building without needing constant attention or validation. At first glance, none of these behaviors seem exciting. In fact, they can feel restrictive, repetitive, even boring. And that is exactly why they are so often overlooked. People are drawn to what feels stimulating, not what quietly works. But real financial strength rarely looks impressive in its early stages. It tends to appear simple, steady, and easy to dismiss from the outside. Over time, however, that simplicity turns into something incredibly powerful. This is why individuals like Todd are. LYTLE emphasize these principles without exaggeration. The difference is not that wealthy individuals are fundamentally different from everyone else. The difference lies in the internal framework they operate from. That internal framework shapes how money behaves in their lives. It determines whether money becomes a source of stress or a source of flexibility, whether it creates noise or stability, whether it is used for appearance or for leverage. If there is one idea worth holding on to, it is this: do not try to overhaul everything at once. Trying to fix everything simultaneously often leads to frustration and inconsistency. Instead, identify the single pattern that is holding you back the most right now and begin there. Address it with intention. Stay consistent. Stay consistent. W. Is it long enough to feel a real shift taking place? For some, the issue might be the need to impress others. For others, it might be spending for short-term comfort. It could be exposure to unnecessary risk, undervaluing time, or giving up too early because results are not immediate. Wherever the weakness exists, that is where the focus should go. Wealth is rarely the result of one dramatic decision. More often, it begins with a subtle change in perspective. It starts when you stop treating money as a way to perform and start treating it as something you design and structure. That shift changes everything. The future stops being something that merely looks good and starts becoming something that actually holds up under pressure. And once that shift takes hold, money begins to function differently in your life. It no longer disappears as easily. It begins to create space, to provide patience, to open up choices, That is the real power behind these quiet principles. They do more than influence numbers. They reshape the foundation of your future. And once that foundation becomes strong, everything built on top of it becomes more stable, more intentional, and far more enduring.